My name is Josh, and welcome to Hide and Seek Archives, a podcast where we talk about things supernatural, cryptid, or unexplained.
And we are live. Welcome, everybody. Today we have Mike Paterson with us. How are you, Mike?
Good. How you doing, Josh? Good to be here. Thank you very much. And Todd, nice
Yeah,
to meet you guys again.
yeah, great to see you as well. Glad you're able to join us.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you back on for a part two. I know on part one it was just when I was just doing audio, and then we turned into the live show, and here we are.
Yeah. Um, I guess we can start off. Again, I don't know what all was discussed when y'all had your when you had your show a year ago, but Mike, would you mind just giving kind of a quick summary on your background, how you got into this subject, and so forth?
Yeah, I'll just quickly run through that again. This started. It was back in 2008, and I was spending a lot of time in the woods with a camera. Just enjoy wildlife, nature, and I was out there a lot by myself, photographing, just taking photos of nature and that. And one day I had an epiphany to start looking for Sasquatch. I don't know where that came from, but at this point, I think I might have had some influence. And it started pretty much immediately, once I started looking into it. Actually, the first time I went out, I had an experience. And the second time and the third time, and now it's about 13 years later, and it's been almost a decade documenting a family up in the Kawartha Lakes region of Ontario here in Canada, with Neftia and his family. We still don't know how many family members there are. We've gotten, I think it's 8 names at this point. And it's still going strong, and it's been just an absolutely fascinating journey. And I think they saw, they liked what they saw when I was spending that time in nature, and I think that's why they reached out.
Let me ask you this: Do you think that Sasquatch are choosing people that they want to show themselves, and they're choosing people to help that process of allowing us and everyone else to know that they're here?
Yeah, from my experience, I was given an experience years back. It happened just after I'd woken up, and that seems to be a time right when you're waking up or right when you're going to sleep when they will give you an experience. Basically, they're highly telepathic, and I had this image given to me with this visual given to me with this saying, "Soon your people will know." And to me, it was basically showing me that they are revealing their existence to the human race, and as they choose. And I've watched this unfold. I can see it happening. And yes, they do choose who they reveal themselves to, and who they interact with. I think they tend to avoid a lot of folks that just have the wrong intentions towards them. Those that, if you go in with respect into the woods and just good intentions, there's a good chance that you could experience that. But yeah, I fully believe that they are connecting to humans more and more, and especially I've watched this subject unfold and expand into the area of the paranormal, where so many people are starting to understand that there's a lot more to them than just some flesh and blood being.
Right. Well, when you talk about the telepathic abilities, um, Do they communicate with you regularly? I mean, are you able to? Can you ask questions and actually get answers from them? I mean, have you been able to ask them any like specific things about their history or their origin, or has a lot of your theories based on just what you've experienced?
Um, Actually, we've developed the communication over the past 10 years. It's written communication a lot of the time, and I'm just asking questions out loud. I'll write them down. I'll say them out loud, and I'll use a chalkboard and a sketch pad, and they're given written responses, and they know what goes on behind closed doors. So they basically are a threat to the status quo because they know secrets that we can only speculate or call conspiracy. They know what's going on, from some of the responses I've gotten, and I trust them. I trust their answers. Is it fact what they're telling me? I can't prove that, but I do believe what they're telling me. Like I asked them about the moon landing. I said, did humans ever land on the moon? They put no, never left. Just like what? That. They said no, never left. That was their response. And there's footage out there on WikiLeaks showing edited cut scenes from the Nevada desert, which I'm sure the feds would say, oh, they were doing whatever, just some bullshit. But I've asked them, there's quite a few questions I've asked them. I've asked them about the people going missing in the forest, the missing 411, and they gave a response to that. And it wasn't a pretty answer either. I asked first if it was their people. They said no. And then they responded that it was government using AI. And I asked them, are they using, first they responded government, and they used an abbreviation, GOVT. And then I asked, are they using advanced technology to make humans disappear? And they wrote AI. So, these are the kinds of answers I'm getting, and some of the questions I've asked, I can't even say them. They're just so out there, right? So, but the communication is really developed, and they're highly intelligent.
Do you go to a specific area still? I mean, you're still going to work in the same area, or do they come to you, or you usually go in a specific area to interact with them?
Well, I've been documenting with the cottage owner, Dwayne, and myself. We've been through a roller coaster ride in this, as some people might know about. There's been a lot of crap we've had to deal with along the way, and things that have happened. But we've managed to get through all that, and we're good friends at this point, and almost a decade later, we're still going strong with this. But I also get calls. I got a call from a couple out northeast in Ontario here, the north of Belleville in Ontario, and they called me not too long ago. I don't know, maybe about a month ago or so, and invited me out to their place. I can tell speaking to somebody right away if they have it going on their property, and I had a good feeling about them. And sure enough, I went out there. I ended up pitching my tent where nobody dared, basically. And I think they're probably listening into, but I put my audio recorders out as per usual. And when I'm listening back, I ended up, I had rock clacks right outside my tent. Actually, when I was zipping my tent up, there's a good stick crack that I don't hear because in real time, because I'm zipping the tent up, right? Which is something that they do a lot. When they'll know when you're going to shuffle your foot in the ground and make a noise, and they'll make a noise, and your noise will cover it, and then you'll question if you heard something. And so audio has been fantastic for me to play that back, and then I get to hear what actually happened. So I went to visit this couple, and I've learned so much through audio, listening back, and I'm always listening to audio, just tons and tons of it. I have stuff going on here at home. I haven't put it out here at home for a little bit because I've just been so busy doing other stuff. But the activity has actually followed me. And my approach is very non-invasive. I just put my audio recorders out. I'm not trying to trick them. I'm totally honest with them, because I've learned a few things, right, along the way. And I speak to them. I speak out loud. I talk to the woods as if they're standing right there. And they've, like Neff's family, have shown me time and time again, they hear my words. So it doesn't matter where I go. Like, I've moved several times throughout this journey too, and the activity just follows me. It shows up regardless, and it can show up in the strangest of places. For instance, recently I started a new job. I was off for a while because of the whole COVID thing. So I started working again. 3 days into my job, and there's this thing that's been happening in my vehicle a few times, with the thing being wrapped around my rear view mirror. I have some things a few trinkets hanging from the mirror there. And it's happened while I've been in the car, and it's happened while after I've come out of a forest and my car's locked, and I get in and it's wrapped around. It's happened, like I said, when I'm in my car, and I've tried hitting this thing and it won't wrap around, right? So I come out of my workplace. This was the third day in, and two of the things hanging from the mirror just wrapped around. And then they were even wrapped around the little tab you flip for the night, to dim the lights at night, the people driving behind or coming up behind you. So they wrapped it around there. They do these little things, and they know what you focus on. So they're going to do things that they know I'm going to notice. And I know a lot of people have a difficult time understanding or comprehending that you had Sasquatch in your car. But I'll just tell a quick little story about a recent visit with Dwayne to the cottage. So I was in my vehicle, because I usually run audio mics through my sunroof, and I would just got in the car, so I'm doing a battery change on my recorder, and suddenly I'm sitting in my front seat, and suddenly I hear a marble hit the window. I thought it was on the outside. I found the marble on the inside, so it hit the window on the inside. So I'm sitting there, I'm trying to get the batteries changed, and then in my center console, suddenly a marble hits where the little change holder thing, which is basically impossible from the outside. So what they're showing me is matter to them is basically empty space, which, when it comes down to quantum physics, it is. It's pretty much empty space. Walls are not there. And with them, they know how to manipulate that energy. It's not there. So they basically can walk right up behind me while I'm in my vehicle, and as if it's not there, and just drop a marble down in front of me while I'm inside my car. So I got two marbles inside the car while changing batteries in real time. So it's pretty phenomenal stuff, when you experience it firsthand. And I've had so much of it, I'm actually used to it at this point. So.
What was the first thing that happened when you got involved, when you started having interactions? What was the first thing? What did they start doing, or what that you started seeing, realizing that, oh, there's more to this, to these beings?
I kind of have the memory that comes back to me would be this little toy, kid's toy. It was like a little ice cream cone top, and it had been placed on the back of my vehicle on the trunk. And I remember coming out to my car and seeing it there, and just realizing, because nobody knew really what we were doing. It was just, it was so odd. It showed me their intelligence.
Yeah.
And they were a lot more on the ball. And it's like, there's other cottagers around there. So I'm thinking, how the hell did this happen? How do they make that, come down and put that there without being seen? I didn't know they were interdimensional at that point. I didn't know they were invisible and could materialize and disappear. And these things, when I say these things too, I'm not speculating at this point. Like this is fact. And another question I've asked them: can all of your people go invisible? And they responded with a yes. So it was that little ice cream cone thing. Kind of was one of the first things that happened.
Well, one question I've always had, I know in history, Native American history, they talk about trading with them, and I always wondered if they had face-to-face, encounters or communications with them. Do they ever show themselves fully? Do they ever just come walk out and say, "Here I am," or do they always kind of? I don't know. I don't want to use the word sneaky, but are they all kind of just careful about how much of themselves they want to reveal? I mean, and what do you think their reasoning is for however they manage that?
I've barely had a visual in almost a decade. I've had small glimpse. Dwayne's had more than me.
Okay.
His father, he had a full visual out the window. That's why I got invited in there. This whole time, I don't understand why Neff won't, show himself at close range. But I've felt his touch many times. Pat me on the head or poke me.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of enough incidents of physical contact that have happened both indoors and out. There's been incidents where I've had partial manifestations. Dwayne's noticed it a couple times while I'm standing there, and there's been a partial manifestation directly behind me, and I've even been poked in the side when it happened, and he's commented like this massive dark shadow has appeared and then it just goes away. And as far as full visuals, we do know what Neff looks like. We know what his face looks like. Not entirely his full being, but we do clearly know what his face looks like. He has shown himself, but I haven't gotten a good visual myself. So I don't know if maybe it's a fear factor, maybe it's a rule, maybe among their people that how much they can show. I don't know. I really don't know. I've been trying to find out. I've been asking for a long time.
I've always been curious about that. It almost seems like a rule to me because they always get close or mess with people. Just like you said, marbles or show them they'll do little things. I did show them they're around, but just never totally reveal themselves. It's always been an interesting. It's always been a question in my mind why they do that.
Yeah, they give little bits and pieces. They'll impose images onto the camera, and you can sort of make things out, but it's never really clear, right? So the visuals, I don't think they. There are all these trail cams all over the place, right? And once in a while, it looks like somebody's captured something, but they do know the devices are there. They know what's going on. I think they show themselves purposely, in part, but I also believe they are fallible. I believe they do make mistakes, but for the most part, they're pretty much on the ball. Especially in a situation like I'm involved in, it's different. There's no mistakes made on their part. It's all very precise and purposeful.
When you've been invited to some of these other locations by people who are having encounters, and you stayed out there and you've experienced some of the activity, do you think there's a relationship between the ones that you're experiencing at that location and Neftia and his family, or do they know each other, or do you feel like they're just different families all over and they don't necessarily communicate? Or I just kind of wonder if they're all able to.
I wonder that. I wonder that too, Todd. I don't know. Like I've had activity show up here several times, numerous times at this point. I've had like I got a stone coffee table here. I remember it was 5:30 one morning. I'd gotten up to go to the bathroom. I jumped back in bed and trying to fall asleep, and I hear two distinct knocks on the stone table, and I knew they were in the living room here. Right, there's nobody else here that's going to do that.
Yeah.
My girlfriend actually experienced something similar. She said it was wood, a couple of knocks on wood, and I don't know if that's Neff's family or if that's another family that I captured some audio behind the house here a while back. It was this summer, where a young one's running around, and one of the adults had walked up to the microphone that I had strapped on the tree. And I didn't get the feeling that that's Neff's family. And it just just came back to me too that I had actually asked Neff's family at one point if it was his family visiting here, and I got a no response. So,
okay,
do they know them? I don't know. And it seems to me that if you are in good rapport with with any of them, it seems to be with any others that you might interact with or run into. It seems that way. I don't know, obviously, just from experience.
Hey, Mike, I do got a question for you. Do you feel that there are some that are not as good, or I should say, they mean ill will towards others?
There's a lot of stories out there that I know. My personal experience at this point is there's been nothing malevolent towards me, and I've had experiences in multiple locations. They see things. They see what we do. They see the harm we've done to the planet. They see how we treat each other. The fact where everything's poisoned these days. I'm sure that some of them are probably very pissed off at humans for what we've done, the wake of destruction we've left. And I think this is why they're exposing themselves to the human race and trying to wake us up, so we don't continue down this path. But as far as any of them being malevolent, or like I said, there's stories out there, and sometimes I have a difficult time believing them. Like I remember the one guy, Barton, I think his name was, and he was going on about this experience he had all this telepathy going on, and there just seemed to be way too much mind speak that he was talking about, from my experience and from others that I've dealt with. Because from my experience, Sasquatch are a very few words. They say their point, they get their point across, and when they show up, and it's over usually within just a few seconds or a couple seconds or whatever. They'll do something and then they're gone, and then they'll come back later, do something else. It's very fleeting. They're fleeting moments. So when I hear stories like that gentleman I mentioned had told, I have a difficult time believing that. So I don't know.
yeah. Well, have they, in any of the information you've gotten from them, what is your theory, or have they given any information to indicate their origin? How long they've been on Earth here? Are they related to humans in any way?
Okay, so I asked them, "Are you human?" They gave me a Y/N. They used to write yes and no. Now they do Y and N. So they basically said they are human, and they're not. I asked them, how long, or where your people come from, how long you've been here, something like that. They wrote home here always. So this has been their place. I asked them, are your people the first people on Earth? They wrote yes. I asked them, there was another part to your question I'm trying to remember.
Well, I guess origin, but what you were covering.
Oh, there was something else I wanted to mention too. So I asked them how long do their people live in human years. I asked them that, and they didn't respond. So sometimes I'll reword my questioning, and a lot of it I've kind of refined my questioning to yes or no answers to make things simple for communication. And I asked when they didn't respond to that, I said, "Do your people live longer than 200 human years?" And they wrote yes. And that
really?
was, yeah, that was wild to get that response. And then I
Yeah.
bumped it up. Then I bumped it up to 500 years, and they didn't respond. And I dropped it down to 300 years, and they didn't respond. So I got the 200 plus anyway.
Over plus, yeah. Okay.
And again, like I'm just the messenger guy. I'm asking these questions, and I know what I'm getting is legit. You know, this stuff, it's just been developed over this amount of time. Like I said, they're very intelligent. There's no funny stuff going on here, regardless of what some people think. And there's always going to be people that doubt or think it's a hoax. Especially after all the crap we've gone through. But I am the type of person who does not like bullshit. Right? I'm the least person of bullshit you're ever going to meet, pretty much. I do not like it, and I don't embellish. I tell it just like it is, and I've always done that. I've kept just straight on this path, and like I mentioned before, I understand it's difficult for people to accept that. Hey, I'm getting written responses from the Sasquatch, right? But hey, that's what's going on. So.
Yeah. What about other hear of other quote cryptids that exist? Have they ever indicated of any other type of people or cryptids? What do you want to call them that exist?
Yeah, I did ask about the dog man. So
Okay.
I asked, are the dog man your people? They wrote no. And I'd also asked, are the dog man good people? And they wrote no.
Okay.
So there's that. There's been a couple of stories I've gotten out of this region, as well as from another person who interviewed me way back, had also had an experience of a thunderbird, I guess you could call it, just a massive bird with I was told it looked like about a 15-foot wingspan, which basically doesn't exist. We got the California condor with a 10-foot wingspan, or the condors are the biggest birds on Earth, apparently, right? So the one story that I was told, and the source is reliable, definitely reliable to me. There was 2 witnesses, and there was a flock of these things witnessed flying over a bay, and it was the sounds of them that freaked them out the most. And the one person had looked up and stated dinosaur, and then there was another story that came out of the same area, and these seemed to be perhaps babies of these giant birds. And I think these things are coming out of this dimensional, wherever the Sasquatch are. There's obviously other dimensions going on here, right? So I think there's other wildlife or other species that are unknown, or perhaps written in lore, folklore, or that have existed supposedly in the past and are supposedly now extinct, and perhaps they're not. They're just not in this reality. So this whole thing has just opened up a whole door to this world is not as small as I thought.
Yeah. So, what about your theory, or of course, a lot of people have belief systems that Sasquatch are biblical. A lot of people have belief systems that they're related to, the
Nephilim,
aliens, or the Nephilim, right? Nephilim. You have theories that they're related to aliens, or created by aliens, or whatever.
Oh,
You
okay.
have, both sides. I've heard theories from both sides. Do you have a theory on that, or have you got any information that led you to believe one way or another? Or
Well, I was told that some humans have their DNA. So
okay,
from that tells me they are our ancestors.
okay,
So this whole evolution from ape theory is bullshit,
yeah, yeah,
And I think that you might be right. Hey, perhaps we were seeded here. Perhaps they were seeded here by some alien species. I don't know. It's definitely um, something to ponder. It's very possible as well. I
yeah,
haven't got a response yet, from how they got here or who created them. I did ask them about Jesus Christ, and I'm not a religious guy. I'm a spiritual guy. Um, I don't follow any organized religion, but I did ask them. I said, "Is Jesus Christ the Son of our Creator?" And they wrote yes. So that was really interesting to get that response too.
that is interesting, and maybe
I
that
go ahead.
makes you think more of the Nephilim side. When you hear that kind of answer,
Say it again, Todd, because the sound's breaking up just a little bit.
you want to lean more towards the Nephilim theory. When you tell me something like that, possibly.
Yeah, not like I don't know if maybe they have some of the Nephilim DNA or whatever in them. I don't know, but they're not Nephilim from what I
Yeah,
see. From my understanding, Nephilim were red-haired giants with double
yeah,
rows of teeth and 6 digits on their hands and feet, right? So
yeah.
that's not them. It's different. They're different.
Right. Um, Josh, go ahead. Were you going to say?
I wanted to ask you what some of this audio was that you had sent me.
Oh yeah, so I sent you a few files there, and I don't remember what I sent, so you're just gonna have to play them. If you tell me the name of the file, I'll probably
Let's
jog
see.
it around.
I'll start with the first one. Coyotes, October 18th.
Well, let me explain
Okay,
that.
so before you start this, I want to just give a little background on this. So
Sure.
Dwayne and I had an experience. We went in. It was on. I think it was a Saturday at some point, or it was during the day. We were inside the cottage. It was midday, and suddenly we're sitting there in the living room, and suddenly we got the loudest wolf howl that was right outside the cottage wall. And you're not going to get a wolf come up to a cottage in the middle of the day and start howling.
Yeah,
So they showed me. They showed me that this was them, and they've done it before, and I've recorded them a few times now. So they tend to get the coyotes going with their howls, and if this is the file I'm thinking of, you might be able to hear the moaning that goes on among the coyotes, and so I believe that's the Sasquatch, and they're just having fun.
Kind of weird. Big funk. Me? I wonder, a little more. I need damn.
So I've recorded that a few times now.
I have heard similar stuff here in Texas.
Oh yeah.
Yes. In the national
Cool.
forest where we go out to. I've heard some similar stuff with the mixtures and the coyotes, and actually I've heard a couple that I the question was actually coyotes I was hearing.
Yeah,
Was
you could definitely hear that moan.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's good. You could hear that. Yeah, there's yeah, off in the distance. So that they, like I said, they've shown me that they do howl like the wolves.
Yeah, I've
Um,
heard we've had quite a few with them here where you'll hear the coyotes will start up, but then you'll hear the yelling kind of going on with them.
yeah, I think they get them going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
I would
heard
do the
one
same.
instance of that here in Michigan too. You hear
You got a
one that
couple
doesn't
of,
sound quite right.
yeah.
I heard an instance like that here in Michigan. You hear one that doesn't sound quite right, and then a whole bunch just start going off. All the coyotes just start going nuts.
Cool. You got some other files there too, right?
Yes, I do. Let's see, March 20th
Okay.
conversation.
Yeah. So that one is uh, that's back from 2015, and it's one of the clearest pieces I have. And this was actually a time when things were rocky between Dwayne and myself, and this was actually the last visit before the plug got pulled for a while. And this is where Neff actually states, "We love you." His basically saying his people, not I. He said we, and I never use that term towards him. And what I've learned from that piece is he's actually talking about numerous things throughout that piece. He starts with the word Ninadadwa, which I finally I got the meaning from them, which means invader go, and that had to do with trespassing going on by the BFRO, who have been nothing but a thorn in my side throughout this whole thing. I can't stand that organization.
Yeah.
Not all the members. I don't paint everybody with the same brush, right?
Right.
These organizations, they tend to go in with the wrong attitude. There's another one called Ontario Sasquatch, that is basically, I'm Sasquatch Ontario. There's Ontario Sasquatch, and they are complete opposite. I found out these guys, they go in pushing fear, and they go in with loaded weapons, and they do nothing to help the cause. So these people with these organizations are, with this mentality, are just, they're not doing any service to helping the cause here, right? If people understand, if you just go in with a passive approach and good intentions, and leave your weapons behind, they're not going to harm you. Like I have no problem putting my tent right in the thick of Sasquatch country at this point. I'm quite comfortable around them. It's my experience. I've had nothing, no harm. It's all good. So, anyways, that conversation. Um, he starts off with that Ninadadwa. He's talking about a couple of different things. So it seems to me that when he throughout this little piece you're going to hear, there's numerous things, different topics being spoken about in the one piece there.
Okay.
You, my friend. Miss you, my friend. The who? And the who? That's you, my friend. my life, my friend.
No.
So happy to have you in my life.
No. We love you.
Oh, oh, that's very nice.
We love you.
Man, I love you, buddy.
That little piece at the end where he actually says "achoo." I was having an allergy attack that night, so
Oh,
that's what that was referring to. And while I got some time, I just want to tell about an experience that was recent that Dwayne and I had, and oh man, this was just so. Last winter, at one point, a young one left a trackway. I believe. I got Neff's age, which was as of last year. In human years, he's 25. Probably 26 now, and his little sister Anastasia is 12, maybe 13 now. And I know both their footprint sizes. Ness is now, as of last year, 16 inches, started at 12, so he's grown 4 inches since. So there was a footprint left, or a trackway left in the snow, and I estimate him to be maybe 14 years old. And at the same time he left the trackway, I believe it's his father, whose name we don't have yet, and he left a 21-inch print. And that used to be, back in 2015, it was 20 inches. It's now 21 inches as of last winter. So he left a single print. The young guy left a trackway. So I was documenting the young guy's trackway, and suddenly I got hit out of thin air by a snowball. He threw a snowball at me. And then he vocalized. I had my video camera running, and he vocalized right beside me. So I captured his clear vocal right beside me on the audio on the video camera, which is one of my videos behind it. It's the subscription thing. But so this young guy, we think this is who it is, and he seems to be Mr. Funny Junior, basically. We used to call Neff Mr. Funny before we knew his name, right? So lately I've been getting, what they'll do, put an egg in my bag, not broken, so if it breaks, it's my fault. Yeah. Or I got a couple of potatoes shoved in my shoes, and my shoes filled with cream. I bring extra footwear just for this kind of stuff. But the last visit, we think this is the young guy. The last visit, we're sitting there, sitting on the couch. Dwayne's in his chair at one point. This is pretty rude. So I get up and I walk into the other room, and after I get up, Dwayne, he's all stink, right? And I goes, smell, man, and it smelled like dog shit. And I was like, that's not me, that's dog shit, man. I don't know what that is, or where that came from, and it just came out of thin air. And it was there for a bit, and then it just dissipated into nothing. So later on, we're sitting at the table, and Dwayne's sitting 3, maybe 4 feet away from me at the most, and suddenly I get this stink in my nose of horse. I thought maybe horse crap.
Yeah.
And he couldn't smell it. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't smell it? And it was really strong out of thin air. And then it wasn't coming in the window. I stepped outside. There was nothing there. And then the switch flipped, and then it was him. It was given to him, and he was smelling it. And then I couldn't smell it. And we're just a few feet apart, right? And then after that, suddenly I noticed I had urine on my hoodie that I was wearing out of thin air. It was wet. And I brought it home. My girlfriend smelled it. I just stunk to high hell of urine. So there was a lot of stink going on. And it's funny because I had back and forth with somebody who had interviewed me a while back, just recently. I talked to them and I told them this story, and they had a very similar experience, minus the urine. But so at first I'm wondering, because I didn't bring treats this time, I wonder if he's pissed off, you know. But at this point, I think it's just another experience that they're giving, and this young guy just having fun at our expense, and
Yeah.
being a bit of a turd, I
Thanks.
guess. So, yeah,
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
Oh, and at one point, I'm sitting at the table. I literally felt a directed. I wouldn't say wind. It was like it was. Like it wasn't a breeze in my face. It was like a streamline stink right at my nostril. Put it right at my nostril. I could feel this wind. This, So it was. It was pretty weird. And I have no shame. I'll tell it all, right?
Yeah.
It's what it is.
When on that last recording, Neff, I know Neff's using some English words like, "Well, we love you," right? So he said, "We love you."
Yeah.
Did he learn that from you guys, or is that stuff? Do they already know some English?
That brings me to another. I asked them about language. What language do your people know? What do your people speak? They all. So, if that, I don't know if that means individually. Do they all know all language each, or is it scattered among their people? Like with Homo sapiens, they're highly intelligent. Their intelligence is so underestimated by most people involved in this subject. And, which is understandable because most people don't have contact like this, so they don't get to see this. But they know language, and I've recorded Neff speaking different languages. I'm trying to find different things about. I've asked them about Sumerian and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's a slow process gaining responses. Like last visit, with all the stink stuff going on, I asked a few questions. I got no responses to any of them. So I don't think it's a negative that regarding the stink thing because I had previously just had a visit at work. There was some little bit of activity showed up here at home. So I think it's just another experience. So as far as the language, and they gave me another experience way back too, which when they gave me that visual, which was dozens of them all walking in the same direction across this meadow, and the words "soon your people will know." Those words were not spoken. I had actually felt them, and there was a clarity that left no doubt. So to me, that showed me that they do not need to understand language to understand language. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They can feel it, and they know what it means without having to understand the actual language.
Yeah.
Am I right? I don't know, but that's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah. Any of those words that you figured out any of those words that you've identified, have you associated with them with any Native Americans?
I didn't get that last part. Sorry.
Some of the words that they've said that you've been able to identify that aren't English words, have you been able to associate them with, say, any Native American languages?
Not yet. Not any specific language. Although they did write down a language that they speak there. I have it draw like a picture of it that they drew on the chalkboard. Mm-hmm. So they basically told me they speak a specific language at that location, which is as well as English, right?
Like their own dialect for that area?
I'm sorry?
Kind of like their own dialect for that area?
I don't know, I guess. But they actually wrote the word, the language, and then they drew an arrow and they wrote "speak here."
Oh, okay.
Which was interesting. really interesting.
That is
That
fascinating.
They are people, you know. They're highly intelligent, and they're highly telepathic, you know. And this is all going to come out. It's all going to be exposed as this keeps going along, and you know, hopefully more and more people open their minds to the reality of this, because they are not just some ape in the woods, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I actually had the support of Dmitry Bayanov and John Bindernagel, who used to use some of my stuff in his presentations, but he quit using my name because people were always squawking his ear about, you know, I'm a hoaxer or this and that. Dmitry actually used the term at one point. Both have sadly have passed. Dmitry used the term Bigfoot Gate at some point, basically insinuating that there's a cover-up. I have correspondence between us to show that, and I believe the same, because once you have the contact I do, you can see that this is covered up. There's an ET connection, there's a UFO connection, and I believe this is why this stuff is being suppressed. You know, that they put these finding Bigfoot shows on television that, you know, keeps this ape mentality alive, basically. BFRO which I also found at the BFRO, they throw their reports, their entire database is fraudulent. They are flesh and blood only, and they have a inside group that wipe the reports clean of any paranormal. So, you know, that does us no good, right? In trying to progress and understanding what we're truly dealing with.
Yeah. But yeah, that was going to be my question about the cover up. If part of it is the fact that the government knows what abilities they have and knows more about what they're able to do, capable of, than, you know, the average person.
Yeah, I think they have to be well aware. You know, if I know this stuff, I'm sure the military or certain, you know, a certain sanction, or, you know, certain people in positions of authority are well aware of what's going on here. And this has been, they use disinformation, misinformation, distractions, whatever tactics they use to try and you know, keep us from learning the actual truth, right? They can't hide the fact that they exist, but they can do their best to try and keep this ape mentality alive, and make it look foolish to anyone that believes in the woo factor, the paranormal factor. But when it comes down to it, it's they are interdimensional beings. Right?
Yep.
Get activity indoors and out. Doesn't matter where you go.
Post that question.
Yeah, there's a question here. What species do they claim to identify themselves?
They don't give a specific species, not that I've ever gotten. Like I said before, I just asked them, are you human? And they responded, yes, no.
Yeah.
So they, and the fact that some of us carry their DNA. I don't. But some humans do. So there is lineage there. There is an ancestral connection there.
Let's see. I've got a couple other pieces of audio here. May 10th, first call.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. It's a distant call.
Okay, let's see.
Short but sweet. You might want to do that again.
Yeah.
That was basically when Neff and his family started vocalizing in a big way. That was about 8 months after we had started documenting the activity, and beginning of May 2013, that's when he started calling my name, and that happened there as well.
Does his family members speak a lot, as much as he does?
No, no, Neff's been the most vocal, although we've recorded voices from female, both young and older, just little bits and pieces. The young guy, I believe, maybe an older brother of Neff's, because I've noticed actually Neff with his S's, he has a bit of a lisp, and then I've heard, I have a recording of another one saying, actually says Sasquatch says yeah, just does this crazy thing, but he says Sasquatch very clearly, where I've heard Neff say Thither, right? So it's like, okay, that's not Neff, that's another one in the family. You can kind of distinguish through their speech a bit.
So you think, how many did you say you think are in this family group?
Well, we've been given 8 names so far, so it's I don't know. You know, I see people, a lot of people documenting and interacting. They'll say, "Oh yeah, there's 4 in this family." It's like, how do you know, man? You know, how do you know? How do you know there are some not in the background that haven't exposed themselves or shown their footprints or whatever? Like, this is 10 years. I don't know how many are in Neff's family.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Any indication of his parents?
Of what? Sorry.
Neff's parents. Any indication of if they're still there?
Parents.
The older.
Well, yeah. Well, there's the big guy. We call him the big guy because I don't know his name, and he's his footprint, like I mentioned, as of last winter, was 21 inches. And he was photographed back in 2000 and February 9th, 2013, I believe it was. And I think a couple 100 feet from the cottage. And Dwayne and I were on another piece of the property. It was his spouse at the time who he showed himself doing, and she took a photograph, you know, from inside. But I went and recreated that scene the next visit. We didn't want to go up there and disturb the area and start looking to see if there was prints. We stayed back out of respect, and I'm glad we did at that point. We believe that's the father, and back then he was about 11 feet hunched, so I think he was about closer to 12 feet tall. And I also believe he showed up in my dream one day, and I shook his hand, and next thing I know, I'm given a new location to go in there, and it just kind of like all happened. And yeah, they have some phenomenal abilities in how they can show up, and I'm talking dream state too. You know, they have this ability. They are not dreams. They're much more. They have an understanding of energy that is. I hope to learn some of this stuff. I've asked, you know, can we do what you do? Can we go invisible like you guys anywhere? And they said yes. So apparently we have abilities too. They're just kind of
don't know
turn
how
it
to
off. We can learn them or something. I don't know. I'm trying to learn.
Josh, a couple of new questions.
Let's see here. Can you explain how they know your motives and that one cannot deceive them with tricks? Why one cannot trick them?
I.e. to get a photo. Yeah.
I've been shown. I'm quite convinced they can read our thoughts. So that'll answer that right there.
Right.
I'm quite convinced that they can read our thoughts at this point. So
and I thought I've heard you mention in the past about them having the ability that time is different with them. They have ability to know things sometimes before they happen. Is that true?
it seems that actually this was Dwayne's thought. You know, I give him credit for this at one point where he had mentioned it seems that perhaps they see our subconscious thought before it reaches our conscious mind, so that way they react quicker than we react. Like I put a picture I had an experience where I was sitting in a chair and I put an image of a marble dropping into my hands, and as soon as I put that image in my head, it was bang. It was like so fast. And this is something that's happened, like not that specific incident again and again, but there's been numerous times where it's like, how the hell do you guys respond that fast? Like you got to know my thought or something. It seems, 'cause I believe that before our conscious thought, it's in our subconscious, before it reaches our conscious mind, right? So
Yeah.
they are definitely quick.
Right. Well, if somebody in the audience or somebody out there say they have property, they have them living on their property, if they wanted to have more interaction with them, what is your recommendation?
Don't try to trick them. Don't put up trail cams. Talk to the woods. Talk to them. Talk to them like they're right there. Play games. Set up little whatever games, maybe with sticks and stones. Set something up in a particular order. Take a picture so you know how it was. Maybe a little thing will get turned or something. Or they know what we focus on, and they will use that to show their presence. And they show their presence in very subtle ways, and it's consistent. So much subtlety. But if you're paying attention, you can learn that their presence is there. Otherwise, like without my audio, so much I would not have known. So much of the time I would never know they were there, but
Right.
They let me know through the audio, right? So, leave a gift, bring a gift, just good intentions towards them, curiosity and respect nature, and just be yourself, right? And
Right.
don't try to trick them. Just like like you want to be their friend, and with authenticity, and they know.
Right. Josh, any
All right.
more audio before we close?
Well, we've got Neff, November 1st, 2013.
I believe that one was there was Neff and a younger sibling who at one point was playing with the windsock that was over my microphones on my sunroof, sticking out my sunroof. So they always gravitated to my audio recorders. It's been this way since day one. He sat there, and banged on my car roof and talked, and in fact that's what he's doing in this file here. There's language you can hear. It's clear. You can hear language in this file. It's not English though.
All right, let's see.
No. Sí, güey, al éxito. Wow. Uy. No.
Yeah, I guess I cut out the other part with there was the younger one playing with the windsock because it's very noisy, so I think I took that piece out. But there's actually another individual present there. You just don't hear their voice in that files. But definitely there's some language going on there.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yes, it is.
Somebody mentioned real quick, and it's too long. I know somebody mentioned the blue marble story. Like they wanted you to tell the blue marble story.
Oh, okay. So a friend of mine, Leanne. Ron. Okay. How you doing, Ron? A friend of mine, Leanne, who reached out to me years back. She's been doing great work. She had so many structures, unbelievable. At one point, I aerial, and I'd gone and left some marbles, and I opened up this bag of marbles, and there was 2 of them in there that were bigger than normal, identical, excuse me, and they were clear blue marbles, and I held them up, and I said, oh, I like those, and I was going to actually keep them. I like them so much, and I thought, no, I'll leave them as a gift. And it was my birthday that week, so I'd gone home. Then I come back, and the marbles were gone. I'd gone back a few days or a couple days later. I can't remember the timeline. It was within days. And when the marbles were gone, so I was talking to my friend Leanne, and she had mentioned she has a cottage that's, I don't know, maybe 4 hours drive from there, and she doesn't know where this spot is. So she had told me about this clear blue marble that she had found where she does her thing at her cottage, and I thought, oh, I'd like to see a picture of that. Can you show me a picture of that? And it looked identical, and I said, tell me if you find another one. And she ended up calling me back, and she said, I did. I forgot to tell you. I did find another one. It was a couple days before or something. So she found 2 identical clear blue marbles that she did not leave, that looked like the ones I left, that had disappeared from there. It seemed that because there's the connection going on there, and the Sasquatch, they show us this, that there's everything's connected, right? Since then too, there's been so many clear blue marbles. We were sitting in the cottage one night, and it was suddenly a flurry. I think there was 5 of them, of clear blue marbles, one after another, out of thin air. Like the chair, just pinging off the chairs, and just this is constant, right? This has happened so many times with the marble thing, but the clear blue marbles have definitely been a significant part of this. I don't know what it means, but Ron there, actually, who asked that question, he sent me a big ass giant blue marble that I have in my living room here, biggest one I've ever seen. So thanks, Ron, I appreciate that.
All right, well, we are an hour in. Thank you so much, Mike, for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Good stuff, fascinating stuff, Mike. I really enjoyed this show, man.
I appreciate you guys have an open mind, and just you have to with this. We really, those who get to experience this, really, you start to see that we really don't know anything. There's so much we don't know. We're little toddlers. They're the teachers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We only can get what they can give us to work with.
Yeah, they're in control. They're the ones. They're the ones that all I do is show up. Right.
Yeah.
I just got to keep showing up, and I have no control over this. It's whenever they choose to reveal their presence, and I always love when they do. It's always a great moment to know that they are there. So I do love them. I love their people.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, thank you so much, man. I really enjoyed having you. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd, and thank you, Josh. I appreciate being on here. Okay. All right. You guys have a good night.
Hey,
and thank you everyone for showing up.
You too.
Okay.